John King, USA, CNN, weeknights at 7 Eastern.
Mark, I read this satirical posting over and over again. Satire is supposed to be funny. It wasn't funny. What were you thinking?
Funny wasn't even in the room. I was making a very serious point about the hypocrisy that was involved in that whole NAACP thing. And I'm so very glad that Mr. Jealous has decided to put that behind us and move forward. And I sincerely hope he takes me up on my offer to come along on the Tea Party Express as well as just to talk with us, because he really does need to get out and come to some tea parties and see that we are working exactly for the ideals that the NAACP was allegedly founded to work for, and that is individual rights and freedom for everybody.
Let's talk about that, but first let's focus. You say you were trying to highlight what you consider to be their hypocrisy. You have every right to have your belief and your opinion. You have every right to argue your point, but it's how we argue our points in politics that often get us in trouble. And reading the postings on your own website today, a lot of your own supporters didn't like it, and they thought you set the movement back. I want to read a couple of things in your original, again, satirical letter. This is from you, but you're saying here that you're Ben Jealous. Perhaps the most racist point of all in the Tea Parties is their demand that government stop raising our taxes. That is outrageous. How will we coloreds ever get a widescreen TV in every room if non-coloreds get to keep what they earn? Totally racist. The Tea Party expects coloreds to be productive members of society. Here's one more, Mark. You also wrote this. And the ridiculous idea of reducing the size and the intrusiveness of government. What kind of massa would ever not want to control my life? As coloreds, we must have somebody take care for us. Otherwise, we would be on our own, have to think for ourselves and make decisions. How could you ever possibly think using this language, trying satire, something that would clearly offend so many people would help you make your point?
Well, again, the phrase colored people is not my language. And for whatever reason, I was taught it was racist. But for whatever reason, it's okay for other people to refer to themselves that way. And I have no idea even what color they're referring to. All I know is that we live in a country right now led by an administration that is doing its darndest to separate us by race, social status, by economic status, by geography, you name it, by social class. And that's what that sentence refers to, the division of social class. But I have no idea what is in somebody's head when they refer to a colored person. I know in my mind.
A lot of people, Mark, a lot of people are trying to understand what was in your head when you decided to go so far in responding. Again, you have your beliefs, but was it a mistake? Do you apologize for trying this tact? Read your own postings on your own blog, people who say, Mark, thanks for everything you've done over the last few years. You've been so great for our cause. Some of them flat out say they think what you wrote was racist.
And when reasonable people, or that could be construed as such, when reasonable people soberly approached me and sat down and actually talked with me about it, I reread and rethought some of it, and I agreed with them that it could be misconstrued and probably inappropriate, and more important to the point, getting in the way of discussion and dialogue, which is the reason why it was written in the first place, was to spark that. As you can see, Mr. Jealous has responded appropriately, and I have responded in kind and in a reciprocal gesture, and very happy to make that reciprocal gesture, because I would have far preferred to be on stage at the NAACP convention explaining to the assembled membership why it was so important for them to join with the Tea Party movement, rather than to stand there and listen to screeds from race baiters about what racists we were, because that was a complete lie. And now that Mr. Jealous is willing to sit down and talk with us, I absolutely applaud that. So I pulled the piece. And if there are those to whom I did apologize, because they made the very, very sincere argument to me that I said and the way I said it was getting in the way. And it was my intention, successful intention, to get the dialogue going and to get this nonsense, the lies and the charges of racism behind us.
We'll learn if it's successful or not. But you have certainly generated some controversy. Some say throw a log on a fire that people had hoped to be put out. But I want to read you, one of our producers just had an email exchange with Mr. Jealous. And here is what he just told us moments ago. I have not reached out to Mark Williams, nor have we made any statements against the Tea Party. We have simply called on the leaders to repudiate racist elements in their ranks. If Mark Williams does so, I would be happy to sit down and talk to him.
Well, guess what? From the very beginning of the Tea Parties, we have been repudiating that very thing. And Mr. Jealous, I am very glad that you're taking me up on my offer. You have my contact information. You have my private telephone number, Mr. Jealous. You've got my email. You know where to find me. And if for some reason you don't have that sitting on your desk in front of you, you should. The producers at CAIN, I'm sure, will be more than happy to give it to you. And I will buy the first round of beers at our summit.
Well, Let me try this one last time. Do you think, in hindsight now, that you made a mistake in trying to use satire, in using language that, Mark, I grew up in the days of force busing, and I think I understand this issue pretty well. And I read it over and over and over again, and I thought this is not the way to make a point.
You and I went to school at the same time in Boston, or near Boston, I believe is where you're from, and I was there for the busing riots, and I was one of the people on the streets between the school buses and idiots with the Molotov cocktails as a kid. And absolutely what I did, if it opened the door to ending the vitriol that we saw coming out of Kansas City and opened the door to a genuine acceptance of my offer to talk, or Mr. Jealous's offer to talk to me. However, call it a beer summit, whatever you want. What I did was successful, and I'm glad it was successful. I'm sorry I had to go to those lengths to slap some sense into a lot of people who are so afraid of politically incorrect language that we can't get a conversation started.
Here's the problem again. You say you're trying to have a dialogue, you're trying to turn down the volume, and then you say you're glad you slapped some sense into some people.
Yeah.
Those are your words you just said. They don't think you slapped some sense into them. They think, and again, I'm not going to take sides here, but they think they are in the right position. You think you are in the right position. Why can't we just say, why doesn't everybody quiet down? No more talking about massa or race or slapping anybody in the face, and maybe you have a few things they have said that you find objectionable.
Well, that's exactly what Mr. Jealous said yesterday, and to what I responded to with the reciprocal action today. We've done exactly in the last few hours exactly what you're suggesting.
Well, I don't know if saying they're slapping.
You just read his email. He accepted my offer. I'll be happy.
He said only if you would repudiate. All right. Well, let's see if that works out. I will say I appreciate your coming in to talk about this tonight. And if you do have that meeting, whether it's over beer or coffee or tea, maybe, we hope after you have that meeting you could come in here and maybe the two of you can come join us right here and we'll have a civil conversation about what divides the two of you and perhaps find a few things that unite the two of you.
I think we'll find that there's very little that divides us.